Megan Tupasing, for those of you who don't know. Today I'm going to be talking about intercultural communication competence, and for this speech I'm talking specifically in the business setting. Dr. Linda Beamer from the California State University defined intercultural communication competence as the ability to encode and decode meanings and matches that correspond to meanings held in other communicators' repertoire. So simply put, this is the ability to understand and communicate effectively with someone from a different cultural background. The reality of it is that we live in an increasingly globalized world, so intercultural communication competence is more important now than ever based on the sheer number of intercultural interactions we have each and every day. So basically, communication is the basis of understanding. Every interaction you have with your parents, your friends, your peers, your bosses, even strangers, they're all based on your ability to convey what you're thinking and their subsequent ability to understand what you're thinking. So on that note, Dr. Beamer said that communication is based on perception. What someone thinks you're saying is more important, or at least equally important, as what you think you're saying to them. So even if you're speaking the same language, perception and interpretation is based on nonverbals and communication style. As we know, nonverbals vary from culture to culture. So an example of that is that Japanese and American business people communicate in very different ways based on everything from how loudly they speak, how close they stand to each other, how comfortable they are with eye contact. And a study by Junko Kobayashi and Linda Viswat showed that in those interactions between Japanese and American business people, Japanese people almost always adapt to American ways of communication, and it's not a bilateral effort. So just think of what that says in a business setting if one side is putting in all the effort and the other side is being relatively culturally insensitive in not trying to meet them halfway and make them feel comfortable and welcomed. So just like perception is important in communication, it's also extremely important in business, and you don't want to give off a bad impression before you even start the negotiation. So now that everyone understands a little more of what intercultural communication competence is, I'm going to talk about the dimensions that make up culture, how these influence communication styles and nonverbals. I'm going to explain how this leads to miscommunication and offer suggestions on how to overcome intercultural misunderstandings. So whether or not we like to admit it to ourselves, most of us will be entering into the workplace sooner rather than later. And what we're entering into is a global marketplace where it's incredibly important for us to be able to talk with people of all cultures. Even if you don't actually care what someone thinks or if someone knows that you are trying to be culturally sensitive, and from a business perspective, it's a good business investment to learn these skills because you're more valuable to your company, you can achieve your desired results, and honestly, it's a good way to get ahead, and we're all in college because we want to get ahead. So, Yukiko Inui from the Journal of Intercultural Communication stated that the dimensions of culture include the importance of the individual, cultural feelings towards time, the ability to adapt towards change, and our overall communication style, meaning how we send and receive messages. And whether or not we know it, these influence all of our interactions. This includes time and space, which is an important aspect of our culture that influences our interactions because in the West, we're always rushed. We have a very monochronic view of time where we think that it is structured every interaction, but in the East, it's not as rushed, and so that's a huge difference when communicating. Another is maintaining face, which is the cultural importance of displaying status and power in interactions, which changes between all cultures. So miscommunication and intercultural communication comes from the assumption of similarities, language differences, nonverbal misinterpretations, and preconceptions and stereotypes. So good ways to improve on your intercultural communication competence is to tolerate ambiguity and understand that everyone's different, to adapt appropriately, to be culturally sensitive and respect others and their differences, and to just interpret their nonverbals. So in conclusion, intercultural communication competence is incredibly important, not only in life, but also in the business setting. And from a business perspective, it's good to learn these skills. Thank you.